This is the J. Scott Outdoors podcast on Western big game hunting and fishing, brought to you by GoHunt.com Insider. Research faster, hunt more. Go to GoHunt.com/insider and use the J. Scott promo code when signing up to receive a $50 KUIU gift card. I'm your host, J. Scott, and I live and breathe hunting and fishing, spending half the year in the field experiencing God's creation. I hope you'll enjoy hearing about our adventures. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be another great episode with our friend Craig Steele of Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters and orghunt.com. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the Arizona elk and antelope draw, and we're going to discuss predator hunting and some of Craig's different call-ins, and talk about the mountain lions that he's called in, and should be an exciting episode. I want to thank you guys for supporting this podcast, and you can continue to send emails to me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. I live and breathe you guys' comments and emails that I get every single day. And I love the questions, and feel free to send me any questions, comments, anybody you want to see on the podcast, and I appreciate it. I want to thank our sponsors, GoHunt.com Insider, Elk Hunter Magazine, Western Hunter Magazine, Utah Hydrographics, Phone Scope, Outdoorsman's, and Wilderness Athlete. I wanted to go over a couple of comments from listeners. This email's from Chris. Jay, your podcast with Scott Ellis was one of the best so far. Thank you. From another turkey aficionado, he is no doubt a talented caller. I really enjoyed hearing his thoughts on calling sequences and specific scenarios. He gave some great info, no doubt. Looking forward to more great turkey podcasts with Chris Rowe. I'm getting really excited to hit the woods with my boy in a couple weeks, hoping it's this year. Thanks for the message, Chris. Yeah, Scott Ellis is a two-time world champion turkey caller. I'm going to actually have him down. He's coming to hunt with me Gould's turkey here while this podcast episode is airing. And I'll be hunting Gould's turkeys down in Mexico with my outfitting down there, Colburn and Scott Outfitters, Gould'sTurkeyHunt.com. And looking forward to having Scott come down and hunt with me. Obviously, having a two-time world champion turkey caller is going to be awesome for me. I'm going to get to learn something, so it's fantastic. Another message from Tim. Hi, Jay. I'm a whitetail hunter from Maryland. I would like to tell you how much I enjoy your podcast. The furthest west I've been is eastern Colorado for whitetails. Love the podcast when you talk about chasing Coues whitetail. Thanks for what you do, and keep up the good work. Tim, thanks for your message. We love chasing Coues deer, and we love chasing the gray ghost of the desert, and we're going to have a lot more on Coues deer hunting here in the future, so thanks for that message. Another message from Boyd. Jay, thank you for great content that you put out in your podcast. Your perspective on hunting and conservation is enjoyable. We agree on pretty much everything, and I greatly appreciate the insights and knowledge that you are willing to share. I just finished your podcast with Giannis Patelis, and his analogy of unsportsmanlike conduct from a team sport setting was terrific. Why do people have to act the way they do when it's truly detrimental to themselves and other hunters? No one likes getting someone else's beliefs, traditions shoved in their face if they aren't fond of them. Good point, Boyd. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the support of the podcast. Another message from Chris. Hi, Jay. Wanted to say first off, I absolutely love your podcast. As a Midwesterner, you and Randy Newberg have me hooked on coming out west and doing the DIY hunting. I listen to your podcast every day at work and even while I'm out working. So definitely keep up the great work. The 3-part series with Brian from Asia Mountain Outfitters is arguably my favorite thus far. I wanted to ask you some recommendations on binos. I put in for Wyoming mule deer tag this fall, so a good pair of binos is definitely something I'm needing to pick up. I'd like to try and go out west every year forward, so planning to use I don't know what it says. Whatever pair I pick up, I put in for General Rifle Deer Region YDR, so basically Central Wyoming. What is your recommendation for a model? I know you do work with Swarovski, and unless I win the $1,500 credit that Western Hunter magazine is giving away through your podcast, those are probably out of reach. What kind of power, etc. I'm probably going to go something in the Vortex line, but not sure on what model would be best for all-around Western bino. I do not have a spotting scope. Keep up the great work producing a great podcast. First of all, Chris, thanks for the message. I think if you're going to hunt out west, you probably want to have a good pair of 10 by 42 binoculars. I don't use Vortex personally. I use Swarovski, but I have heard a lot of good things about Vortex. Chris, I think you probably ought to get a hold of Cody at the Outdoorsman's in Phoenix and tell him exactly what hunts that you're going to be going on, and he can probably tell you the best pair of binoculars, your best bang for your buck. And you can reach him at 1-800-291-8065. They are a sponsor of the podcast, and you do get a discount by mentioning the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. So give them a call. Thanks for your message, Chris. Another message here from Jordan. Hi Jay, I picked up turkey hunting on my own a few years ago, being self-taught and having no mentor. I've searched high and low for good information on how to hunt western mountain turkeys. I live in Utah. Up until recently, your podcast with Chris Rowe, I have found very little content to help, but the 7-part series was by far the best information I've heard on hunting the West. I've had some success turkey hunting in the past few years, but mostly I have come home empty-handed. So this year, my brother and I had early tags. We picked up a new area and headed to the high country this week using what we had gathered from your podcast. We were on birds for most of our trip. I called in a bird for my brother on day one and a bird for myself on day 2. We couldn't have been happier. 2 beautiful Merriams at over 9,000 feet. We killed both birds using tactics we learned from your podcast series. Just want to thank you for putting the time with Chris Rowe to make this available and for free. Such practical and useful content. Thanks again. Best of luck on your Gould's hunts. Jordan, awesome pictures here. I'm going to send you a response by email. Great looking birds, and thank you for your support of the podcast. Guys, I want to thank GoHunt.com, who is the title sponsor for this podcast. And if you have not checked out the GoHunt.com Insider, it's an unbelievable research tool to figure out the little hidden gems in each state and look at all the different draw odds and the harvest success and all the different charts, and it's just an amazing resource. And I get a lot of people calling me on the phone and sending me text message about joining up for Go Hunt Insider and becoming a member, and how much value that they've seen placed in the Insider, the Go Hunt Insider, and all the strategy, application strategy articles. And it's just a phenomenal resource. The draw odds is second to none. The preciseness and all the calculations, it's unbelievably accurate, and I encourage you guys to check them out. Use the JScott promo code when signing up for GoHunt.com Insider, and you'll automatically get a $50 KUIU gift card when you sign up. So just use the JScott promo code. And let's get right to this episode with Craig Steele. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have Craig Steele, who is a great friend of the podcast, a friend of mine. Craig is the founder of orghunt.com. He's a guide with Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters, Predator Exclusives. Craig, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing, Jay?
Good. I want to talk to you first today about March 13th. You were out trying to call in some bobcat, and you had another lion come in. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I had a client come back, him and his son. They'd been back. This was their second time to try to call in bobcat. And the first time they hunted with our guide, Chris, and then this time they were hunting with me the last 2 days. And it was the third day of a 3-day trip. And we made a long drive down to an area that I'd seen a big tom in about a month earlier. And we set up, and I'd actually seen a small lion track in that area about a month ago. But we set up, and we were calling a canyon. First 2 minutes, we had a gray fox come in, and where we were sitting, the wind channel behind her back. Usually fox and cats don't care a whole lot about wind, but the wind channel must have been settling our scent. And because it was early morning, the heavy air down below must have been just gathering our scent really hard, because that fox never came all the way to the call. And it was a poor call placement on my part. So I couldn't see that downwind or downhill side for about 60, 70 yards. About 22 minutes in, I turned on a different sound, trying to call the gray fox back in for the kid, because we always, when we're targeting bobcat, unless a client wants something different, we let animals go. As such, coyotes, fox.
What do you mean you let them go?
We watch them come in and we watch them go out.
Is the call still rolling, or do you shut the call off?
It just depends. Depends on if they're attacking the decoy or not. But at 22 minutes in, I switched to another sound, and I looked up, and there was a cat coming in. At first, I thought it was the big tom bobcat. Then I seen the long tail. Seen him from about 500 yards. It was coming down the opposite side on the right-hand side of the canyon, and then it had to cross two little small canyons. Came across the first one, then popped up on the opposite side, and I told the guy and his son that the lion was coming and to not shoot it. They're from California, and I actually got to look up this to make sure it's factual, but I've had 2 hunters from California say that you cannot even import and you may know this, import a legally shot mountain lion to California.
You can't even import any part of a mountain lion.
Yes.
That's what that head of their Game and Fish got, I believe, fired for, is because he shot a mountain lion in Montana or somewhere, and I'm probably wrong on the state, and that's, I believe, how he got in trouble, because he didn't even try and import it, but he went and legally lion hunted somewhere else and got fired for it.
Yeah, so, he didn't have a tag, and people may hate me for this or whatever, but I didn't have a tag. And, we were just going to get some awesome footage. The lion went down the next drainage. I filmed her coming down. I believe it was a tabby. Coming down, and almost the same exact line as the fox, and I called for another 12 minutes, hoping it was going to show up at the call. What I realized is our scent was so strong down in that bottom that I'm pretty sure, that's my educated guess, that she got down there and had enough wind on us and was probably only about 60, 70 yards from the call. And just, again, poor call placement on the stand. You make mistakes, and that's how you learn from them. No, it's cool. I wish it would have been a big tom bobcat, because we'd have killed him. But yeah, it was a lion, and was that
your client's first time to see a lion?
Yeah, absolutely. It was their first time to see a lion, and they knew it was pretty rare. And when you're calling for cats, small lion and bobcats, inhabit a lot of the same areas and have a lot of the same tendencies. So, not that it's common, but it's not like, oh my gosh, if you're really setting up for those type of animals, cats, you're gonna call one in. And it's just a matter of time. So yeah, no, it was a cool experience. The kid didn't get to see it. He actually didn't even believe us, and I told him, I said, let's check tape. So we checked the tape, or the SD card, and he's like, oh my gosh, why you didn't tell me? And we told him. I think he thought we were messing with him. And actually, what I found out is the other guy, Chris, was messing with him a couple days before that, just giving him a hard time. Hey, Miles, how come you didn't see that lion that came in? And so he literally thought we were just giving him a hard time. So, but I was real concerned because I didn't want I didn't want that lion to be shot on the call because, it's a kid. He might get excited, but I was hoping to get some better footage, but it didn't happen. So,
well, if you go to your Craig Steele's Facebook page, March 16th, he posted at 10:40 a.m. There's a short clip there, and then you're going to run the rest of that hunt and the clip on the Hunt for More series?
Yep. It will be on the Hunt for More series, and then it should be on PredatorExclusives.com and on that YouTube channel. But yeah, I got some cool stuff. Called in a lot of gray foxes here. Actually got my last hunt of the year tomorrow. It's just a one-day deal with a returner. But yeah, got some cool footage of some animals, some cool natural footage of some animals coming into the call and leaving. And I find, man, you learn so much by basically being a trophy hunter and being selective. And I got a couple boxers in here walking around on my wood floor while I'm trying to do this podcast, so if you hear toenails. But yeah, you learn so much by watching animals, by being selective, by being a trophy hunter. Trophy hunter gets such a bad name in mainstream media. I'm sick of it because it is literally not what it's being labeled, and you become more of a conservationist by being a trophy hunter. You become more selective, and you also learn so much more about the animals you're hunting or the animals you're not hunting because you're observing so much more and not just going out there just to kill.
How do you think trophy hunters are being portrayed in the lamestream media?
Well, I just got our website hacked on PredatorExclusives.com, which was partly, it was my fault as far as security reasons because I'm the webmaster on that. And then like a week and a half later shows up this advertisement from bigcat.org on the search term that we get a lot of our clients from, or beginning clients from. And it dropped our search rankings down to the number 2 spot on that. And in the little snippet below, which is the little text below the headline or title of the website, said, learn more about the myths of trophy hunting. And you click on it, and it basically is a full-page, web-page article on why trophy hunters are bad and what they do and their mentality. And, the mainstream media really, and society for that matter, and I also blame us for what it's come to some degree, but the mainstream media, for lack of better terms, make it look like we are bloodthirsty and we just solely kill so that we can have that rack or we can have that trophy mounted on the wall, and that we have no respect for that living creature, the meat, the wildlife, or anything about the hunting process. And that to me is what I think that trophy hunter has been branded. I think, again, to some degree, it may be a little bit our fault because as a hunting community we tend to talk about, antlers and Boone and Crockett score and we take it for granted that everybody is viewing hunting or trophy hunting the way we view it. Whereas, when we go kill a big bull elk, we're taking care of the meat. We post all the pictures of the antlers and the grip and grin stuff. I think lately it's starting to change a little bit. Hey, you two. lately it's starting to change a little bit. I mean, I know you post a lot of caping photos, and I think the new media within the hunting community is starting to be very cognizant of showing the whole hunting experience and showing how hard it is. But it's just one of those things that I just get sick of it, because I mean, that's who I am, and I'm not going to hide from it. You and I have talked about it a lot. It's just who I am, and I'm not going to hide from it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think all people have to do is spend, a couple days with us, and they would realize that what they perceive as us being trophy hunters is totally different than what they perceive. Bouncing back to a couple things that you said.
Can you hear these dogs? Let me get these dogs out of here. Sorry.
Okay.
Out. Come on. Go ahead.
Bouncing back to something that you had said, you said the word tabby cat. What do you mean by
Female.
that? Okay, so you just call tabby, obviously that's female. I didn't know if it was like a young female or a certain...
I'm pretty sure it was a younger female, but I mean, it could have been a younger male, but head size and body size looked more feminine, from what I could tell.
And what kind of sounds were you using when this particular cat came in?
I plead the fifth. Just kidding.
Dude, you can't do that on this. You don't have any rights on this podcast.
I don't one bit.
I mean, you can watch the video and hear it, but what?
Cottontail Duet and Platinum Gray Fox. And the reason I don't care a whole bunch about sound is because I think 90% of it is stand location, time of day. There's so many other factors that go into it. And then somewhere in that list of top 10 things, sound is number 7, 8, 9, because you got to do so many things to even get yourself in that position. It's just like calling a big old bull elk. Sound is there, but you know as well as I do. I mean, if you're 1,000 yards away versus 100 yards away, and you've been detected at 100 yards away or whatever else, it doesn't matter what sound you blow. That big bull's on you, and the same thing with predator hunting is, there's a lot that goes into it. So I don't care about hunting sound. I kind of jokingly said that because that's the first thing everybody asks anytime I call something in, and it's like they're looking for the magic call and the magic noise that just brings them all in. There's so many different factors that go into it that I just think sound is super important, but there's so many more important things.
Gotcha. So after a day of predator hunting, what do most people do with the bobcat hides? And do you skin them right away? And maybe tell me about skinning a bobcat.
Oh, that's an awesome question. Most guys that come or they take a bobcat, they want the bobcat and they want to mount it, full body mount. What I do typically, it just depends on where they live, if they're flying. Number one thing for out-of-staters that come and hunt Arizona is you have to have a CITES tag. So I have to go get that bobcat tag to get it exported out of the state of Arizona. So the cat is always left with us or with me. Typically when we get back is I will do one of two things. I'll either skin it that night, or I will freeze it in the freezer. One of the things I like about freezing it is, first off, those people that have hunted with me know that it just depends on the client, but if they know going in with a bobcat hunt with me that we're going to work hard, and you do get tired. especially after a 3-day hunt. So I don't want to be skinning an animal at 9:30 at night that I've got to get up the next day and hunt again. So we'll throw it in the freezer, and it also kills all the, any fleas or ticks. Bobcats are super, super clean compared to a fox or compared to a coyote. So I don't mind skinning bobcat at all. So yeah, I usually freeze them, and then it usually takes about, depending on the temperature outside, I usually let them pull them out of the freezer after, if I have a week break or something like that, or a few days break, lay them out on the concrete and let them unthaw. Usually takes a day to a day and a half, maybe 2 days, depending on the temperature outside. And then once it's almost completely unthawed, I'll skin it out. Sometimes we do ship. There's some taxidermists that like to carcass cast their animals. And so sometimes we do ship them frozen to a taxidermist. And I just did that recently. So, and that's where I don't skin the animal at all. And then as far as fox, usually there's a lot of guys that want to get one of each species. There's even guys that want to get coyotes. The coyotes that we do take that guys don't want per se, I do have a local retired guy who, for his basically supplements his income. So I just donate the fur to him. So I just say, hey, Tom, you want these? Go and bring them to him. And Tom's got extra money that pays for food and his utilities. So it's a good deal.
Nice. Let's take a quick break here.
Tired of relying on out-of-date numbers, spending too much on hunting consultants, and seeing too little results? With Go Hunt Insider, the old way of doing things is over. With the introduction of Draw Odds and Filtering 2.0, you'll have access to the most accurate, up-to-date information in the industry. You can filter by state, species, trophy potential, weapon, specific days or months of the year, harvest success rate, male to female ratios, and much more. All of this leads to easily finding the best hunt for you. So what are you waiting for? Visit gohunt.com/insider and join the movement.
Use the J. Scott promo code when signing up and receive a $50 KUIU gift card. Since 1982, the Outdoorsman's in Phoenix has made it their goal to provide the very best customer service combined with the latest and greatest optics and accessories in the business. Outdoorsman's is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods and mounting accessories for any hunter's optical needs. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the J. Scott promo code to receive 10% off all Outdoorsman's packs and pack accessories. Specifically, Craig, on a bobcat, walk me through when you're skinning a bobcat, how you actually skin a bobcat, where you start, and things to watch out for as you're skinning.
Okay, so first you got to identify, does the guy want it for fur, like to hang on his wall, for, basically to be stretched, to be sold? Does he want it skinned, case skinned, or tube skinned? Does he want it that way? And then, or secondly, does he want it for a full body mount? And then always consult, ask the guy to talk to his taxidermist. How does his taxidermist want it skinned? Most of the guys that want them full body, it's a dorsal cut. So it's just like skinning, any other dorsal cut animal. It's you take and go from the back.
Explain that dorsal cut.
It's basically up the back is what it is. So you insert your knife on the back side of the leg, just past the pad, and you draw a straight line, usually on the color phase, where it turns from white to orange or white to gray. You follow that up all the way to the rectum, and then the opposite side, you do the same thing. And then you will chase up one side of the tail and draw a straight line down that animal's back, down that bobcat's back. Same thing for coyote, fox. And you go all the way down to basically probably about an inch or two below their ear line, and then you make a V from that incision to the back base of their ears, not going too far, and you don't want to go into their ears because their ears are basically cartilage. And then
just to be clear, you are cutting along the spine of the animal?
Yep, the spine of the animal.
Just like you would a deer?
Just like you would a deer. And so then you just skin out the back leg. I like to, it just depends. Sometimes I like to, on full body stuff, in the dorsal cut, I like to skin them on the ground just because it feels better to me. It feels like I can handle that animal better with that cut. Whereas if I'm case cutting, I like to hang them up, or tubing, I like to hang the animal up. So going back to the dorsal cut, after you get it to behind the ears, okay, so you basically have 2 cuts, 1 down each leg, to the anus or rectum, follow up one side of the tail, get on that spine line, go all the way to the, an inch or 2 down the back side of their neck, V out to the ears. Don't cut to the base of the ears. And then from there, I like to do the front legs. So it's the same thing on the front legs as the rear legs. You find their pad. Don't get into their pad. You follow a color line, chase it up the inside of their leg to the armpit. Do that on the opposite side as well. Knife blade up, and then from there I have all my cuts that I've made that I can kind of connect the dots, so to speak. So then I just start skinning the back legs. I'll skin one side first, usually the side that I chase the tail on. I'll skin that out, and a lot of times on bobcats and fox, especially, even coyote, they're thin-skinned game. They're not heavy like an elk. They're not heavy even like a deer or antelope, or medium like those. They're really thin, so you can pull the skin back a lot more than, you don't have to cut as much.
So in other words, you're peeling. If you're right-handed, you're cutting with your right hand, but you're peeling and pulling with your left hand.
Yes, and you can peel almost their entire belly. Once you get those legs skinned out, you can pull that hide down. And occasionally what I'll do is if I get one side started and then I flip it over and I'll get the other side started, sometimes depending upon, to be honest, my mood, I'll hang them back up by their hock or their leg, and then I'll finish pulling out their belly, because you can pull that hair off really easy. And then you just go down to, you can go down to their jaw, and you can trim that away, and you can twist their head off. Some taxidermists most taxidermists want to do all the skinning themselves, to be honest with you. But so that's why I advise you to make sure you talk to your taxidermist first, because he mounts based on, basically he cuts based on how he likes to mount the animals. So, but you can pop that head off, and if you're going to skin out the face, don't pop the head off, because you're going to, after you have all that hide pulled, you're going to pull on that and use that as leverage to basically cut more, continue to skin that face out. You skin that face out all the way down, to their lips. And it's just like a little different than, at that point, it's easier when you get to their face than an elk or bighorn sheep or antelope, because you don't have the antlers to deal with.
The horn pedicles.
Yeah, the antlers or horns. You don't have those, and that's the biggest headache on those animals. And case skinning, it's exactly the same thing as dorsal cut in the back, go down to the anus, and then you make a straight line incision, and then you just basically at that point, you can even, if you don't want the feet, which feet are negligible on as far as for cell of fur, so you don't need them. You can, after you make those incisions on the back leg, you can just skin around or cut around that leg below the feet, and then you can go to your front legs as well and make an incision all the way around that 360 on both sides, because you don't need the feet, unless, now if a client requested, hey, I want to have my feet as well, then I'll leave them on there. But you just make that incision in the back on case skinning, and then you basically just peel that hide off. And that's why I like hanging it up, because you can get a little bit more Western with that, pulling that hide off that animal's, basically, I think it's the layer of skin versus the muscle or the fat. Some of these animals will have fat early on in the season, but as the season goes on, a lot of their fat is burned off. So it's one of those. You need to do.
How fast can you skin a bobcat?
Actually, not that fast. I'm not that fast. I'm pretty slow skinner all the way around on everything I do.
What does that mean? Not that fast.
Okay, so a full body dorsal cut will probably take me 45 minutes to an hour. So
you're very particular, and you try and do it as good as you possibly.
Man, because you watch taxidermists, they're the ones that are the experts on that. I mean, I know we do it too, but they're the ones that get to deal with the messes, and I try to be very, very cautious. Case skinning a bobcat is a lot quicker, so probably 30 minutes.
So, Craig, I've never skinned a bobcat for mounting, but I would think, I've just never mounted a bobcat, but I would think, and I want you to hear what I'm saying here, I would think that if the bobcat is laying on its back, belly up, that you would cut on the back legs along the color line, down to his butt, across, and then you would kind of peel it, and then you would just peel the whole the whole bobcat down.
You can do that.
And so to hear you say cut along the dorsal just shocks me. I've never done that way.
Yeah.
Because you would think, yeah, they have long hair, but isn't the best way to have the best cape, or skin with no cuts? Wouldn't it be to just well, what is that called? Is that what you're calling case skinning?
And the reason, that is a case skin basically, for the most part, tubed. Excuse me.
So in other words, I would think you're cutting along the back lines. You're peeling the tail, and then everything basically just peels down.
Yes.
And then there's no cuts in the hide except for on the front pads, a little incision, but then as you peel, then you just peel around, and then right above where their joint is in their quote-unquote ankle, or whatever you would call that, wrist, you'd cut that, and then the actual paws would come out.
And the reason I said you asked your taxidermist, I just hunted with a guy that his biggest thing is doing small predators. That's what he does. And he likes to carcass cast them. And he's going to go compete at the world, whatever taxidermist competition this year. He does great work. And I asked him, I said, Mike, how do you do yours, and how do you want yours? First off, he wants to skin them himself. And then secondly, he said, when I do them, I dorsal cut them. And the reason why, his carcass cast, a carcass cast is basically he measures that animal's body, takes all the measurements, and he forms his own mold or own form based on that animal's size. So when he is mounting that animal, and there may be some taxidermists who are like, oh no, Craig said it all wrong. When he is mounting that animal, it's the animal's exact body size. So that's why from what I understand, why he likes the dorsal cut, because he has to sew that animal up from the back, and he is very meticulous on how he sews that animal up. So that was his suggestion. Now, there may be other taxidermists that want them tubed, but I think tubed, and this is just my uneducated opinion, it just seems like if you're pulling that bobcat onto a form, and we probably shouldn't even be talking about this because we're not taxidermists, but onto a form, that form's going to have to be smaller than the animal's actual body size, because he's going to have room to pull that tanned hide onto that. So that was one of the reasons why I started talking about the dorsal cut, because this taxidermist, that's what he prefers, but he also prefers to do it himself because he wants the lines to be super clean. So always consult your taxidermist.
Makes sense. I think that's great stuff there. I think people will find value in that, and appreciate you talking about that. I want to jump to another subject, and that subject is we're here late March, early April, and here in Arizona, credit cards are about to be hit, and everyone I know is freaking out, wanting to know what they drew, and it's always a crazy time. My anticipation for this time doesn't seem to be near as passionate as it used to be. Not that I'm not excited, but it just seems like people get crazed up over this, and they stop any productivity at work, and they all of a sudden are checking their credit cards 40 times a day, and it's like, goodness, it's going to come out when it's going to come out. But what are you thinking? You think it's going to be this week? We're doing this podcast on the 22nd of March, and if you look at years past, it's been 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th when it comes out.
It's going to be when it comes out, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I know it comes out sometime, probably this week or next week. When it comes out, people are always analyzing. I used to do this when I had nothing better to do than to just sit there and, check my credit card balance. But I'm trying to do a number of different things. So if I draw, I draw. So sometime in the next 2 weeks.
You did get me yesterday, though. You sent me a text that said I drew elk, and I immediately didn't fall for the bait and said, liar.
Well, then Dar called me out of the blue, and I had to give him crap because he automatically believed me. Well,
because I texted
the record,
him and
I got first. Somebody sent me a text, and so I went and checked, and then there was the ha-ha. And so then I used to do that all the time.
So I really appreciate that the first person you thought of was let's see what Jay's doing and razz him a little this morning. Make sure he's on alert.
Yeah, I have, it's one of those, maybe it's because I'm getting older, going bald, getting gray, whatever, but it's like one of those deals where there's nothing you can control. So it's like, why worry about what you can't control? So either the charges will show or they won't. I'm not stressed about it.
I'm with you. Let's take a quick break.
Have you guys heard about PhoneScope? PhoneScope is a privately held company that makes custom molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. Take digiscoping photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. PhoneScope is the future of digiscoping. Get yours now. Use the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope, that's PhoneSkope.com, or on Instagram at PhoneScope. Wilderness Athlete is committed to improving the health and quality of life for the outdoor athlete by providing field-tested, scientifically validated nutrition and sports performance products. Check them out at wildernessathlete.com and use the JScott promo code to receive 10% off any order.
Okay, getting back to the credit cards being hit. Interesting, with the credit cards being hit, the deadline for New Mexico's application is tomorrow, March 23rd. And I have already applied for Utah. I have 16 points for elk. Actually, 17 points for elk. And I applied for beaver archery, which my points don't really do me any good there because they only give one non-resident elk permit. I put in for Arizona for archery elk. I have applied for New Mexico.
You put in for Arizona?
Yep, I put in for Arizona. And I'm trying to draw Unit 23. And I put in for New Mexico as well. I put in for 16D second hunt, 16D first hunt archery, and then Unit 17 for the second hunt, the later dates. And we'll see. Maybe I'll draw 3 elk tags, and who knows? And that's not even including Colorado yet, which will be due in April. But question for you about people applying out of state. And before we went live on this episode, sound like you just cut your finger off.
I just broke my chair. No, I didn't break it. Anyway, just go. I didn't break it.
Sure you didn't.
Hey, man, quit making fun of the fat guy. I'm down to 235. Go.
Nice. That's great. People seem to... Well, there's some that just apply for their home state, and I think, that's great. And then there's some that apply in every state, and I think that's great too. But it seems like there's kind of a disconnect between some of the group there where they're like, I just hunt my state and da-da-da-da-da. And, man, I'd like to think that there's a lot of cool adventures. I've been on some great adventures out of state that's totally out of my element and, kind of get out of what I know best and, try something new. And I was just curious about your comments on that.
I've been preaching on this for a while now, since probably about 2010, 2011. I was late to applying out of state. I've been applying for, I think Nevada's the longest state I've been applying for out of state tags, or the state that I've been applying for the longest that isn't Arizona. And, I used to always have that poor me attitude and just getting out of that mindset of there's so much more than just your home state to hunt. And, it's going to get harder to draw the best tags no matter what state. So in my opinion, whether you go DIY, unguided, whatever you want to call it, guided, whatever you're looking for, if you want quality experiences, you're going to have your hat or your tickets in the hat in multiple places. And, a lot of people, I understand everybody has their own individual budgets, their value systems that account for where they spend their money. That's all independent. That's all. I'm just talking with a paintbrush here. If you really look at it, they're not growing more land and they're not growing more elk. They're not growing more antelope in the state of Arizona, state of Nevada. So if you want to hunt better hunts more often, you better start applying for multiple states. And, I get tired of people looking at non-residents like they're the enemy. And because I know Randy Newberg, and I know a lot of people know, he talks about it, he goes, I'm a non-resident in 49 other states. And people kind of hang their hat on that resident, this is mine, and this is what we do. Yeah, the animals of Arizona are in the public trust doctrine given to, we are basically the ones that say what happens with Arizona animals. Nevada's the same way. All the other states are the same way. But, man, get out of that mindset. If you truly look at what you spend, where you spend it, you need to understand it's just not going to get any easier to draw a Unit 9 archery bull elk. Just look at the numbers. And people want those better hunts. The hunt numbers do not lie. Supply and demand does not lie. It's just the way it is. So I hate people complaining. I try not to complain anymore about not getting drawn, about this and that, because, man, there's so many other things I could complain about. And, you know, when I drew my Utah archery bull tag in 2013, it's like I had people like, you paid $800 for an elk tag? And it's like, shut up. It's not your damn money. You know, I mean, people want to sit back and just analyze and piss and moan, and it does nothing for them but put them further behind in whatever it is they want to achieve. And I just get sick of that mentality, that poor me, middle class, 45-year-old white male that's never had anything go his way when he lives in a 3,000 square foot home with a toy hauler and lifted truck and a side-by-side. It's like, gosh dang, as our man Gary Vee says, you won. You won the lottery. You're born in the best country in the world. So, you know, if you don't want to apply for out of state, that's your problem. You know, not mine. Going back to where we applied, since you said it, I'm going to disclose where I applied. Arizona, for the second year in my life, I applied for rifle only, for elk. That's because that's the time frame that probably we're going to have the least amount of clients, and that if I draw it, I could possibly go get it done on a big old bull in just a few days. I can piss and moan about the life I've chose, but that's what I chose. And
well, you are a multi-gazillionaire.
Yeah, I'm just rolling in the dough. And then I applied for a muzzleloader antelope tag. And then in Utah, I'm in the waiting period for elk, so I couldn't apply there. And then I applied for the Pontagant, one choice, for deer. I will apply for Nevada elk, deer, and sheep. I'm not sure if I'll apply for New Mexico and Colorado. I will probably just buy a point for mule deer. Wyoming bought a point for mule deer. And so that's my application strategy. There it is. So,
you know, I think one of the things about Utah that I think is spectacular, and in my mind, I don't know how people can't apply in Utah, and that's the fact that $65 license and $10 per species, you don't have to float any money until you're drawn. I just don't, you know, I can understand New Mexico where you have to float the money up front. You know, I just paid, what was it, $3,100 or something to just apply for sheep in New Mexico. And I want to say the elk is like $800 or something like that. But I can understand that, not having thousands and thousands of dollars to apply. But, I mean, there's no reason not to apply in Utah. Utah, you pay $65. I mean, people, well, yeah, you got to eat the $65 every year. That's the hunting license. It's like, I know people that blow $65 in, you know, 1 hour on Friday night going out with their buddies, and they don't even think twice about it.
You know, it's just ridiculous. But you know, it's all individual, you know, and that's where, you know, it's all individual. What's your value system? You know, you look at somebody's value system or where they're spending money, that'll tell you what they really value, and we all try to hide it and say how much we want to hunt, or we want to do this, or we want to change the world, or whatever. And your money, really, put your money where your mouth is, and that's the truth of the matter. And you know, I can remember in 2013, I was broke, man. I was freaking broke, and I went up to Utah. I didn't have money. I barely had money to put fuel in my truck, and that was on a credit card. And I ate like crackers. And I just told my wife, I said, I'm gonna go hunt this. and I'm going to give it a shot, $800, and yeah, I did that. Don't tell the wife it was $800 for a couple weeks, but then, my wife knows me. She has, that's our gig. That's the only person that I have to answer to is my wife on what I spend, when I spend it, and she knows me. And man, I ate crackers and peanut butter, and that's it. I didn't go up there to, bring a bunch of friends. I didn't go up there to entertain anybody. I wasn't even going to take my parents with me. They're the ones that were like, oh, we want to go, we want to go. And it was a blessing that they were there. But on the same token, I was prepared at that point in time to hunt that, making barely any money at all, trying to run a magazine business, guide a little bit. This first year, Lee and I had EPO started, and it was freaking super stressful, but, found a way and got it done. And, so there's a will, there's a way. It's all in what you want to sacrifice. And, I just get tired of middle-class white males complaining. So just either...
And complaining, that everybody else has it better than what they have. And it's, to further your point, there's so many people, whoever you are out there, there's so many more people that have it worse than what you have it. I think we always need to remember that.
Exactly. And, going back to that statement, I get tired of middle-class white males complaining. And the reason why I use that demographic is because I'm in that demographic. So I feel like I'm entitled to use it. And also, when I say that, I'm also talking to myself, because I've been there and I look at myself, and I honestly, when I've done that, I honestly want to punch myself in the face, because that is just hinders your growth as a person, as a hunter, whatever you want to do in life, looking at yourself in that mentality. And that's why I say that passionately. It's not to single anyone out. So if you're hurt by that statement, or if you're angry by that statement, look yourself in the mirror and decide. And if you don't want to put in for out-of-state tax, then don't. You don't have to. No one's holding a gun to your head.
Yeah, good point. I want to talk about, I'm bouncing all over the place today, but I want to talk about, with the Arizona elk and antelope applications being, our credit cards being hit, and we're about to find out what we get drawn for. We have had a dry February, and so far a dry March, and I'm just looking here on one of the things I really like about GoHunt.com Insider is the all the different data here. But if you look at the historical precipitation and you click on that chart for Unit 10, let's just start with Unit 10, and it has basically the last 5 years. And if you go back to 2012, in 2012 in January, there was only 0.33 inches of moisture compared to 2016 in Unit 10. Same gauge, you've got 1.7 inches of moisture in January compared to a pretty good antler growth year in 2012 of 0.33. Then you compare February of 2012, 0.47 to the 0.19 inches of moisture in the same year. And it's just interesting to see that, we always speculate how antler growth is going to be. And one train of thought could possibly be that we had some, pretty good storms in January, some pretty good snowfall, and then it's been dry. But, maybe get an early green up if we could get in, a late March shower, get some April showers. It maybe could be pretty good. I was curious if you could weigh in on that.
Yeah, man. First off, the GoHunt.com precipitation stuff is pretty neat. At first I was like, oh man, I don't know about this deal. And but then, I was really looking at it over the last month. It's actually pretty dang neat. As far as what the impacts are, just talking about Arizona and looking at this, I think you and I both agree that there's a lot of different factors, and so we just look at a few, as far as the precipitation being one of them, and from the numbers and from looking at it from beforehand, January was a fairly wet, cold January. February was extremely dry and warm. March was extremely dry and warm. And like you said, the numbers look like, and I look at the drought maps too, but looking at this, the numbers are very similar to 2013, which was a little slightly below average antler growth year as a whole in Arizona. And so the numbers are very similar. One thing I know, and I know we were talking about this earlier and bring it up now, is how about the impacts of the lackluster rut last year? And there could be some impacts there just because the rut just didn't seem as hard, and maybe it was.
And you're talking elk.
I'm talking elk. And it seemed like a lot of the bulls late season that we hunted were in pretty good shape. And there was less antler breakage. And it just could have been what we hunted. But I wonder what impacts that, how much impact that's going to have going into this year. It's definitely not 2015, 2005. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm looking right now at this. I've switched over. I'm now on Unit 9 on the Go Hunt precipitation chart, and I'm looking at October, November, December moisture of 2015. So this last fall's moisture, and 2.48 inches in October, and 0.73 in November, and 0.77. We're talking in Unit 9.
Yeah.
Compared to 2012, which was a pretty good antler growth year, and you've got 2.48 inches in 15 in October compared to 12.30. You've got November at 0.73 compared to 0.06, and you've got December of 2015 of 0.77 compared to 0.46. Well, pretty good fall moisture going into this winter. And my question, the thing I'm looking at is quite possibly they could have gone into this winter in better condition than they did in 2012. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously 13 was kind of a rough antler year, and if you look at the fall of 12, maybe that's one of the biggest indicators going into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That all adds up, and how to quantify it is tough. I mean, predominantly we look at February, March, April as the big months precipitation. We know if we get big rain, precipitation in those months that we automatically assume that we're going to have great antler growth. But there's so many of those other variables that you could throw in there, and I don't know, Jay, you're exactly right. I'm looking at 2.48 inches in October. Yeah, I mean, we had a good October, November, and December as compared to a lot of the other recent years. In some of the areas that I've been out in, predator hunting in, 18A and a little bit of 10, a little bit of 18B, it doesn't look bad. It's not great, but browse looks pretty good, and also tank water, catch water, looks fairly good, and that has to be from some of the October and January stuff. So, I mean, I don't think it's alarm to panic. Also, you and I were talking about it. Of course, take it for what it's worth. You guys know we're talking about meteorologists here, and they got El Nino. We don't know if they got, I don't know, I haven't analyzed that, but the El Nino wasn't as strong in Arizona as what they thought it was going to be. But they're calling for the 3-month outlook and 1-month outlook is calling for 33% above normal probability of precipitation. And that was made March 17th of 2016. So all is not lost. Even in the worst drought year of all time, there were some big bulls killed in 2002. It doesn't seem right, Jay, like it's going to be a horrible year, but it's definitely not an off the charts type rah 2015, 2005 year. Is that your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, but I think, May, June is, typically some of the driest times that we have. And then, if we come in with just early June, mid-June to late June, just bomber early monsoons, and July blows up, and we have a great monsoon in, late June, early July, things really get cracking. They could finish off really good. And, if we get some April showers, I think it could be, if you look at the fall moisture of October, November, and December going into, and not a bad January. Yeah. I think if Dar said yesterday is like it's going to be a horrible elk year. I don't know if I agree with him on that.
If you come back here and you look at Go Hunt's April precipitation for 2016, and you guys see that it's at an inch, it helps out a lot. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm looking at Unit 23 right now and looking at the 2015, fall moisture of, go back to July, and it goes 4.25, August 3.92, September 2.19, October 3.88 in October, 1.66 in November, 1.48 in December, 2.8. I mean, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that unit, hopefully I draw a tag, but that unit
that's good for
right
browse.
there is great for browse.
Yep.
And if you click over here to Unit 1, you're at, I mean, look at this. Unit 1, 2015 in July. I don't know how this could be possible, but it says 14.44 inches, 9 in August, 5 in September, 3 in October, 1.62 in November, 1.88 in December, 1.69 in January. Unbelievable moisture when you compare it to the fall of 14, the fall of 13, and the fall of 12.
Yep.
So it's pretty awesome stuff there. So I guess time will tell, and it's an exciting time. Hopefully, everybody draws their elk and antelope tags that they're chasing, and hopefully it's another great year. I mean, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, well, what you got a predator hunt? Your last predator hunt of the year tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow. Unless something different changes, but yeah, last predator hunt of the year is tomorrow, and then just be prepping for big game hunts and doing website stuff. My hoodlums are up, and I can tell they're being noisy.
Well, buddy, I want to thank you for coming on as always. Thanks for your insight, and make sure to check Craig out on his Facebook.
Well, don't check me out. Check my stuff out. Because if you check
his content out,
you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, don't check him out. Check out his content. Facebook, Instagram, at Craig Steele AZ, Exclusive Pursuit Outfitters on Instagram, Predator Exclusives, orghunt.com. Obviously, the Hunt for More series is something that everybody looks forward to. So keep up the great work, buddy. Yeah, keep it rocking.
All right, bud. Sounds good.
All right, take care. Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they are open to whatever you can dream up. Choose from a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicles, steering wheels, fenders, dashboards, paint guns, fishing rods, cups, tripods, watches, knife grips, helmets for a local sports team or for your motorcycle, picture frames, mailbox, animal skulls, you name it, they can probably do it. Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turns them into something that looks fantastic and eye-popping. Give them a call and see what they can do for you and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at utahhydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics. Whether you are interested in elk, deer, antelope, bighorn sheep, or moose, Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines will bring the adventure to your mailbox. These publications feature articles on the finest hunting gear, tips and tactics from experienced hunters, field judging trophies, glassing techniques, calling strategies, and much more. To become a more knowledgeable and skilled hunter, subscribe today. Go to westernhunter.net/jscott and enter your email address for a chance to win a $1,500 credit towards any Swarovski product.